Today, teams and organizations face rapid change like never before. Globalization has increased the markets and opportunities for more growth and revenue. However, increasingly diverse markets have a wide variety of needs and expectations that must be understood if they are to become strong customers and collaborators. Concurrently, scrutiny of stakeholders has increased as some executives have been convicted of illegal actions in their companies, and the compensation of executives seems to be increasing while wages of others seems to be decreasing or leveling off. Thus, the ability to manage change while continuing to meet the needs of stakeholders is a very important skill required by today's leaders and managers. So why is it critical for leaders and managers to be successful at organizational change? Because it's their job. Significant organizational change occurs, for example, when an organization changes its overall strategy for success, adds or removes a major section or practice, and/or wants to change the very nature by which it operates. It also occurs when an organization evolves through various life cycles, just like people must successfully evolve through life cycles. For organizations to develop, they often must undergo significant change at various points in their development. That's why the topic of organizational change and development has become widespread in communications about business, organizations, leadership, and management. Leaders and managers continually make efforts to accomplish successful and significant change. It's inherent in their jobs. When a topic, for example, organizational change and development, becomes very prominent, it often takes on many different interpretations and meanings. The advantage is that the topic becomes very accessible, interesting, and enlightening to many. The disadvantage is that it's also increasingly vague and difficult for many to make practical. To make this topic of organizational change and development useful, we should reference some common definitions. The first one we're going to look at is organizational performance management. We're used to thinking of ongoing performance management for employees. For example, setting goals, monitoring the employee's achievement of those goals, sharing feedback with the employee, evaluating the employee's performance, rewarding performance, or firing the employee. Performance management applies to organizations too, and includes recurring activities to establish organizational goals, monitor progress towards the goals, and make adjustments to achieve those goals more effectively and efficiently. In contrast to organizational change projects, organizational performance management activities are recurring in nature. Those recurring activities are much of what leaders and managers inherently do in their organizations. Some do them far better than others. An organizational change project is not likely to be successful if it is not within the context of the recurring activities of organizational performance management. The second phrase we're going to look at is organizational change. This phrase refers to the overall nature of activities. For example, their extent and rate that occurs during a project that aims to enhance the overall performance of the organization. The activities are often led by a change agent or person currently responsible to guide the overall change effort. The activities are often project-oriented and geared to address a current overall problem or goal in the organization. The next phrase is organizational development. This phrase refers to the evolution of the organization during the overall organizational change activities. For example, evolution of its members to be able to resolve a major problem, achieve an overall project goal, and/or achieve overall organizational goals. Organizational development is an outcome of organizational change activities. The next phrase is change management. This phrase refers to the implementation of a certain approach or methodology to ensure the organizational change effort is successful, including to ensure a clear vision and/or goals for the project, and to modify systems in the organization to more effectively achieve the goals. Change management activities can range from a planned, structured, and explicit approach to unplanned and implicit. The next phrase is change agent. A change agent is the person who is currently responsible for the overall change effort. The role can be performed by different people at different times. For example, an effective consultant might first perform the role, but work in such a way during the project that the role ultimately is adopted by someone else inside the organization. And the last phrase is organizational development. Organizational development is a field of research, theory, and practice dedicated to expanding the knowledge and effectiveness of people to accomplish more successful organizational change and performance. Different people often have different perspectives on the field, depending on their particular values and skills. Many people assert that for organizational development projects to be highly effective, they must be systems-based in design and highly humanistic in implementation. What was true more than 2,000 years ago is just as true today. We live in a world where business as usual is change. New initiatives, project-based working, technology improvements, staying ahead of the competition, these things come together to drive ongoing change to the way we work. Whether you're considering a small change to one or two processes or a system-wide change to an organization, it's common to feel uneasy and intimidated by the scale of the change. You know that the change needs to happen, but you don't really know how to go about delivering it. Where do you start? Whom do you involve? How do you see it through to the end? There are many theories about how to do change. Many originate with leadership and change management guru John Kotter. A professor at Harvard Business School and world-renowned change expert, Kotter introduced his 8-step change process in his 1995 book called Leading Change. There are 8 steps for leading change. Step 1 is to create urgency. For change to happen, it helps if the whole company really wants it. Develop a sense of urgency around the need for change. This may help you spark the initial motivation to get things moving. This isn't simply a matter of showing people poor sales statistics or talking about increased competition. Open and honest and convincing dialogue about what's happening in the marketplace and with your competition. If many people start talking about the change you propose, the urgency can build and feed on itself. Step 2. Form a powerful coalition. Convince people that change is necessary. This often takes strong leadership and visible support from key people within your organization. Managing change isn't enough. You have to lead it. You can find effective change leaders throughout your organization. They don't necessarily follow the traditional company hierarchy. To lead change, you need to bring together a coalition or team of influential people whose power comes from a variety of sources, including job title, status, expertise, and political importance. Once informed, your change coalition needs to work as a team, continuing to build urgency and momentum around the need for change. Step 3. Create a vision for change. When you first start thinking about change, there will probably be many great ideas and solutions floating around. Link these concepts to an overall vision that people can grasp easily and remember. A clear vision can help everyone understand why you're asking them to do something. When people see for themselves what you're trying to achieve, then the directives they're given tend to make more sense. Step 4. Communicate the vision. When you do with your vision after you create it will determine your success. Your message will probably have strong competition from other day-to-day communications within the company. So you need to communicate it frequently and powerfully and embed it within everything that you do. Don't just call special meetings to communicate your vision. Instead, talk about it every chance you get. Use the vision daily to make decisions and solve problems. When you keep it fresh on everyone's minds, they'll remember it and respond to it. It's also important to walk the talk. What you do is far more important and believable than what you say. Demonstrate the kind of behavior that you want from others. Step 5. Remove the obstacles. If you follow these steps and reach this point in the change process, you've been talking about your vision and building buy-in from all levels of the organization. Hopefully your staff wants to get busy and achieve the benefits that you've been promoting. But is anyone resisting the change? And are there processes or structures that are getting in its way? Put in place the structure for change and continually check for barriers to it. Remove obstacling can empower the people you need to execute your vision, and it can help the change move forward. Step 6. Create short-term wins. Nothing motivates more than success. Give your company a taste of victory early in the change process. Within a short time frame, you'll want to have some quick wins that your staff can see. Without this, critics and negative thinkers might hurt progress. Create short-term targets, not just one long-term goal. You want each smaller target to be achievable with little room for failure. Your change team may have to work very hard to come up with these targets, but each win that you can produce can further motivate the entire staff. Step 7. Build on the change. Cotter argues that many change projects fail because victory is declared too early. Real change runs deep. Quick wins are only the beginning of what needs to be done to achieve long-term change. Launching one new product using a new system is great, but if you can launch 10 products, that means the new system is working. To reach the 10th success, you need to keep looking for improvements. Each success provides an opportunity to build on what went right and identify what you can improve on. And lastly, step 8, anchor this in corporate culture. Finally, to make any change stick, it should become part of the core of your organization. Your corporate culture often determines what gets done, so the values behind your vision must show in day-to-day work. Make continuous efforts to ensure that the change is seen in every aspect of your organization. This will help give that change a solid place in your organization's culture. It is also important that your company's leaders continue to support the change. This includes existing staff and new leaders who are brought in. If you lose the support of those people, you might end up back where you started. It is often necessary to make big changes in organizations. Companies get locked into old patterns, fall behind competitors, or otherwise end up poorly aligned to their markets and objectives. When this happens, the best course of action may be to pull the plug on the status quo and make big organizational changes. There are obvious risks in this, and also hidden ones that are less recognized. When you make the decision to change, it can be risky, but as hard as it is often much better than the alternative. Much attention is put on managing team psychology during change initiatives and restructuring. Keep your talented employees, hire new talent, manage buy-in, build team cohesiveness, and so on. These are all important of managing the psychology of the decision makers too, as it can be very difficult to recognize when enough is enough. The psychology of how rewards and motivations are wired into our brains makes this a major challenge. It comes down to motivational drivers. Motivational drivers are the fuel behind what team members do and why they do it. Ask yourself, what gives you the energy to roll out of bed every morning, put your shoes on, and show up at the office with your game face on? Every team member has their own motivational drivers, but generational patterns are useful to consider. For engineers and technical people, the motivational driver is most often to build things, to build elegant solutions with creativity and skill. I built this is the internal dialogue. For lawyers, the bias is often to make companies and contracts bulletproof, or to find holes in the work of other lawyers at other companies. I foresaw this and avoided it, or I found a way in and won the case, are the dialogues here. For managers, the motivational drivers are to change things and leave their mark on the organization. I recognized the problem and made it better by moving people and processes around. The last bit about managers can be a boom, but like any motivational bias, can also be a dilemma, especially in organizations that are undergoing massive change. The issue is one of proportion and our human sense of continuity. When you initiate big changes, there is an initial sense of momentum and accomplishment. The opportunity to drive big change is rare, so when managers get the go-ahead to execute big plans, powerful emotions come to the surface. The problem comes in the following days. After the big changes are underway, what do managers do for an encore? After the big changes are put in place, what do they do to maintain the sense of progress the next day? The feeling of accomplishment gets very hard to reproduce without more changes put into action. From the perspective of the managers, the sense of being a catalyst for improvement diminishes in the days and months following big changes. This is where the problems can arise. Just when managers should be scaling down their interventions and reining in their policy changing, they often feel the strong incentive to change more in order to seek continuity of their feeling of efficacy. Once we have made big changes, without more big things to change today, we may not feel like we are being effective. For the manager, this phenomenon can feel like a loss of momentum, not doing their job, or even boredom. This can be a huge problem. Organizations need stability. They need to know where they stand, to know what the company needs them to do, how the company is performing, and to know to some degree what to expect tomorrow and the day after. Big organizational change temporarily robs employees of stability and thus comes at a price. Just as chemotherapy may be the right thing for a patient, we know that it has serious side effects. Big organizational change also has serious side effects such as a loss of morale, loss of focus, and the unwanted departure of star employees. The goal in big change, therefore, is to get it over with quickly, a race to stability. Top managers need to become cognizant of their own motivational drivers and to stay keenly aware of how their actions affect their teams. In reorg scenarios, effective management requires us to quickly put change in place and promptly ramp down instigation of organizational change as the big wave of mandate takes hold.